Two clematis, same variety, bought the same afternoon, planted 1 meter apart in the same bed, fed the same food, watered by the same hands on the same days. One of them is covered in flowers right now. The other has 3 sad blooms near the top and a tangle of brown stems at the bottom, and you have been standing in front of it for weeks trying to work out what you did differently. Here is the answer, and it is going to annoy you. You didn't do anything differently. You did the exact same thing to both plants. That is the problem. Clematis is not a plant you can water on autopilot because where the water lands, how deep it goes, and what else is drinking it change everything. Two plants a meter apart can live in completely different worlds underground. So today I'm walking you through 6 watering mistakes that almost every clematis grower makes, including people who have grown them for years. These are not the vague tips you have already heard. Each one is specific to how a clematis is actually built, and each one comes with a fix. By the end of this, you'll know exactly where to point the hose, how to tell the difference between a clematis that's thirsty and a clematis that is being drowned, and why the plant that looks healthiest in June is often the one about to collapse in July. Stay with me to the end because number 5 is the one hiding in almost every garden and nobody talks about it. Mistake 1. You are watering the stem, not the roots. Watch yourself next time you water. You walk up to the plant, you find the stems, and you pour right there at the base because that's where the plant is. It feels like you're aiming at the heart of it. You're actually aiming at the one part of a clematis you most want to keep dry. When you plant a clematis correctly, you bury it deeper than it sat in the nursery pot, roughly 5 to 8 centimeters deeper, so there are dormant buds underground. Those buried buds are your insurance policy. If the top growth dies, the plant regrows from below. But that buried crown is a cluster of soft, sappy stem tissue sitting in soil, and soft, sappy tissue that is kept permanently wet does exactly what you'd expect. It rots, and the fungus that causes clematis wilt loves nothing more than a damaged, damp stem near the soil line to walk into. Meanwhile, the roots that actually drink are nowhere near where you're pouring. A clematis feeds from a spreading root system that pushes outward and downward, so the working roots are often 30 to 45 centimeters out from the stem and deeper than you think. Pouring at the crown soaks the one vulnerable spot and barely wets the roots at all. The fix is simple. Water in a ring, not at a point. Imagine a circle about a handspan and a half out from the stems and put your water there, all the way around. If you want to make it foolproof, sink a length of pipe or a plastic bottle with the base cut off into the soil at planting time, angled slightly toward the plant, and pour into that. The water goes straight down to where the roots are, and the crown stays dry. That single change fixes more struggling clematis than any feed you can buy. Quick one, if you actually want a step-by-step guide for all this, maybe your plant's struggling or you just can't get it to bloom, I put every fix into one cheat sheet. You get everything in my Plant Fix and Bloom cheat sheet. It's the first link in the description. Let's continue. Mistake 2. You forgot your clematis lives in a rain shadow. Where is your clematis planted? Against a wall, against a fence, up a trellis fixed to the house, beside a shed? Almost every clematis in the world is planted against a vertical structure because that's the point of it. That structure is stealing its rain. When rain falls, it almost never falls straight down. It comes at an angle, driven by wind, and a wall or a solid fence blocks it from one side completely. The strip of soil in the first 30 to 60 centimeters from that wall can receive a fraction of the rain the open garden receives. Then the wall soaks up moisture from the soil, the footings underneath dry out the ground, and the wall itself radiates heat back into that narrow strip on a sunny day. So here's what happens. It rains solidly for 2 days. You look out the window and think, well, everything's had a good drink. You skip watering that week and the week after. Out in the open border, that was true. In the 60-centimeter strip against your south-facing wall, the soil 3 inches down is bone dry, and your clematis has been running on empty through the exact period when it was trying to push out flower buds. The fix is to stop trusting rain for anything planted within an arm's length of a wall or a solid fence. Check it yourself. Push a finger, or better, a bamboo cane, into the soil right after a downpour and see how far the wet goes. If the cane comes out dry below the top few centimeters, your clematis just missed that rain entirely. And when you plant a new one, set it at least 30 to 45 centimeters out from the base of the wall and lead the stems back to the support with a cane. That small distance moves the roots out of the driest, hottest, most sheltered soil in your entire garden. Mistake 3. You saw it wilt and reached for more water. This is the one that kills plants outright, and it kills them fast. You walk out one morning and a whole stem or the whole plant has collapsed. Leaves hanging, tips drooping, the whole thing looking like it hasn't had a drink in a month. Every instinct you have says water it, and water it hard, so you drench it. 2 days later, it's worse. Clematis wilt does not look like disease, it looks exactly like drought. The fungus gets into the stem through a wound or a weak point near the soil, blocks the plumbing inside that stem, and everything above the blockage collapses because water can no longer reach it. The plant isn't thirsty, the pipe is broken. Pouring more water into the soil does nothing except make the soil around the infection site wetter, which is precisely the condition the fungus was waiting for. So learn to read it before you react. Real drought stress comes on gradually and evenly. The whole plant looks tired, older leaves go first, and it perks up noticeably within a few hours of a deep watering. Wilt is sudden. It is often partial, one stem gone while the stem beside it looks perfect, and it does not recover from watering at all. And here's the giveaway. Check the soil first, every single time, before you decide. Push your finger in. If the soil at depth is moist and the plant is collapsed, that is not thirst. The response to wilt is not water, it is secateurs. Cut the affected stems right back to below the damage, all the way to ground level if you need to. Remove the material from the garden and keep the crown on the dry side while the plant regrows from those buried buds you planted it deep enough to have. Most clematis come back. Most clematis that are drowned in a panic do not. Mistake 4. A little every day, which is the worst possible rhythm. A short daily drink feels responsible. It feels like attention. For a clematis, it's close to sabotage. Roots grow toward water. When you deliver a small amount every day, all of it stays in the top few centimeters, so the plant builds its root system up there, in the layer of soil that heats fastest, dries fastest, and swings hardest between wet and dry. Then you go away for a weekend in July, or you get busy for 4 days, and that shallow root system has nothing to fall back on. The plant crashes. Clematis want the opposite. They want the top of the plant in the sun and the roots in cool, deep, steady moisture. And you only get that by watering less often and far, far more heavily. In the growing season, a mature clematis in open ground wants something in the region of 10 to 20 liters delivered slowly in one go once or twice a week in real heat, rather than a splash every evening. Slowly is the key word. If you tip a bucket on fast, most of it runs off across the surface and away. Trickle it or use that sunken pipe and let it sink. Then protect what you've delivered. Mulch generously over that root zone, 5 to 8 centimeters of compost or bark, but keep it pulled back a few centimeters from the stems so the crown stays airy. Better still, plant something low and leafy in front of the base, a hardy geranium, a low shrub, anything that shades the ground. That living shade keeps the root zone cool and slows evaporation far more effectively than another watering can ever will. Mistake 5. Something else is drinking it first. This is the one hiding in plain sight, and I promised you we'd get here. Clematis are almost never planted alone. You've grown one through a climbing rose, up into an old apple tree, along the base of a hedge, or in a mixed border between 2 established shrubs. It's the whole charm of the plant. But every one of those companions is a mature, aggressive, deeply established root system, and your clematis is a newcomer with thin roots trying to compete for the same water in the same square meter. You water the area, the rose takes it, the hedge takes it, the privet roots that came under the fence from next door take it, your clematis gets whatever's left. which in a dry August is nothing. And you're standing there genuinely convinced you watered it because you did. The same trap catches container growers in a different way. Compost in a pot shrinks away from the sides as it dries, and once that gap opens up, everything you pour runs straight down the inside wall of the pot and out the drainage holes in seconds. You see water coming out the bottom, you assume the pot is soaked through, and the root ball in the middle is still dust dry. Clematis in pots also fail simply because the pot is too small. They want a deep container, at least 40 to 50 centimeters each way, because a small pot cannot hold enough moisture to keep those roots cool through a hot week. The fix for competition is delivery. Get the water past the competitors and directly into your clematis's root zone using that sunken pipe or a drip line right at the plant. And be honest that a clematis sharing ground with a hedge or a mature shrub needs noticeably more water than the same plant standing alone. For pots, stand the container in a tray of water for 20 or 30 minutes so it soaks from the bottom up whenever the compost has pulled away from the sides, and top dress with a mulch to slow that surface drying down. Mistake 6. You water the same in October as you do in May. A clematis is not equally thirsty all year, and treating it as if it were causes damage at both ends of the season. The moment of maximum need is the run-up to flowering, when the plant is throwing out meters of new growth and filling out buds at the same time. Water stress in those few weeks is why buds go brown and drop, or open small and pale, or why the display lasts 9 days instead of 3 weeks. That's the window to be generous. But once the flush is over, once you've hard-pruned a Group 3 variety back and it's rebuilding, or once autumn arrives and growth has stopped, demand falls off a cliff. Roots that aren't actively pushing growth cannot use the water you keep supplying. It just sits there in cold soil around a buried crown all winter. And that is how you rot a plant that survived the entire summer without complaint. Winter wet, not winter cold, is what finishes most clematis in heavy ground. So change your rhythm with the plant. Water hardest from the start of strong spring growth through flowering. Ease off as the display fades. From autumn onward, water almost never in open ground, only stepping in during a genuinely long dry spell. And in pots, reduce to a small drink just often enough to keep the compost drying out entirely. And if your soil is heavy clay, put the effort into drainage and grit at planting time instead, because no amount of careful summer watering saves a crown that spends 4 months underwater. 6 mistakes, and I'd guess you recognized at least 3 of them from your own garden. That's normal. Clematis are strange plants to look after, because everything you do right for the top of the plant, sun, heat, open air, is the opposite of what the bottom of the plant wants, and the watering can is where those 2 needs collide. Do one thing this week. Go out to your clematis, push a cane into the soil a handspan out from the stems, and find out what's actually happening down there. Then tell me in the comments what you found, because I read them all and I'd love to know which of these 6 was yours. If this helped, subscribe, because we go this deep on one plant at a time here. Revive it, then make it bloom. I'll see you in the next one.